What's up, party people? Today we're getting experimental with the 2022 Santa Cruz Chameleon, and we're testing it back-to-back mullet versus full 29er. So we're gonna take it for a lap as a mullet, talk about what it rides like, and then I'm gonna swap out the dropout to the 29er dropout, put a 29er rear wheel on. Geometry will be exactly the same. Tire pressures will be exactly the same, and we'll be on the exact same trail doing the same exact lap, so I can compare back to back. If you haven't already seen my review of this bike, go watch it. I love this bike. It's a fun, rowdy bike that's a little bit stiffer than the old one. A lot of fun to ride. Real playful. So the one place in general I'm not crazy about mullets is on pedally long days, or when I want to be efficient and when I want it to feel kind of XC-like. For small power moves like we've got here in Sedona, no biggie. But for an all-day trail, I typically prefer 29ers. But this will be interesting to see how the two compare. I really like this bike on the downs. Hello, thanks a lot. It's a party bike though, it's a rowdy bike. It wants to be going faster than 15 miles an hour, whereas the previous one seems happier below 15. This bike feels quite different from other bikes I've ridden. I don't know how to describe it. I think it's the tall stack. I think I find it a little bit easier to lift the back wheel on those big moves. But I feel like the smaller rear wheel struggles a little bit more to get up big ledgy obstacles. Let's see how this climb goes. It's a tough one. Oh, let's give that one more go. One place this comparison will not be fair is with the hub. The hub's awful on this stock Chameleon R. The engagement is really poor, and that's hard on technical stuff like this. All right, that line's a little bit easier. I'll take it. All right, we got it. Eventually, that's a tough climb. All right, it's party time. This is usually where I love the mullet. On playful stuff like this, on fast switchbacks or steep switchbacks. I love the way it falls into corners. Oh, corners so well as a mullet. We'll see if we lose any of that as a 29. Takes a little more effort to keep my speed up through here compared to my other bikes. I do feel like this bike wants more steepness and more speed. Real planted and stable feeling. Especially on corners. Man, this bike is special. It's not particularly fast on the flats. Here's a reminder, when you encounter mud, ride through the middle of it, don't widen the trail. This trail used to be single track, but now it's 20 feet wide from people going around stuff or trying new lines. We always try to ride the original trail. I do feel the rear end getting a little hung up on some of these rocks that I'm used to rolling over a little smoother on my other 29ers. Like, it's not a problem, but you notice it. Like the back wheel wants to bounce instead of stay on the ground and track over stuff. So yeah, in this more pedally, flatter section, it's fine. It just lacks some of that zip and pep and momentum that I get with the 29er. We'll see if that translates when I swap the wheels out. This isn't a really light bike, so there's a chance it might still feel sluggish and kind of dead on these flats with the 29ers too. We'll see. Yeah, it just kind of feels like I'm riding through peanut butter. Doesn't have a lot of zip and pep and energy right now. It wants everything steeper and faster. That's a big difference between this Chameleon and the last one. The last one was pretty peppy everywhere. This one really wants black diamond trails to come alive. And it does great on those black diamonds, but it's a little bit sluggish on these blues and greens. Oh man, I can muscle up it, but it's a challenge. Man, that took some effort. Here's the last tricky climb, and this one is tricky. Takes a ton of energy. Nope. Got stuck on that knuckle. That's pretty regular occurrence for me. Every now and then I get it, but not today. All right, a little downhill blast. Oh, so playful. I wonder if the wheels will have anything to do with how playful it is. It's time for me to run to the car, put my 29er on here with the 29er dropouts. I'm gonna run them all the way forward and the same tire pressures as I've got right now to keep it as similar as possible. All right, we're back. I ditched a layer, it was getting hot. We're on 29er mode, 29 by 2.3. The other one was a 2.4. This is a slightly faster rolling tire. This is a Specialized ground control 2.3. The other was a Aggressor 2.4. That's as close as I can get. Let's go hit the trail, see what the difference feels like. Still pretty darn playful. Feels a little quicker. Oh man, that front loves to pop up. Plenty playful still as a 29er. Ooh, I think I'm liking this more. It carries speed better. Definitely carries speed better. It corners a little more like a 29er. I can't quite just change direction quite as instantaneously. I have to plan my corners and my lines a little bit better. These are all subtle differences though. I'm not sure most people would notice. For better or for worse, I'm pretty sensitive to small changes on a bike. I think that makes me a good reviewer. But a lot of people don't feel these differences, so it doesn't really benefit them anyway. The rear end feels a tiny bit higher when I'm charging down stuff. I feel like I need to let one more PSI out. Could be the 2.3 tire. Could be the rim too. I'm on a Hunt trail wide. A little bit bouncier than with the other wheel setup. I think that's the narrower rear tire. I'm gonna let one PSI out, see if that's any different. All right, let's see if the climbs are any easier. It does feel remarkably similar geo-wise. That's pretty awesome. Normally mullets feel a little stiffer to me with that smaller wheel. Those race face ARC wheels have a pretty compliant feel to them, to me. Maybe that's part of what I'm feeling. All right, 3 big ledges. I'm just barely lifting my back wheel up enough. It's working though. I feel like with the mullet, I can rear wheel lift like an inch higher. I do feel like this gets less hung up on junk. Little tire spin there. Here we go. Oh! I got further the first time. Let's give that another go on the easy line. That felt better. I could have got that if I'd picked a better line. I do think the 29s roll through chunk better. You can feel it. It's weird, you'd think it would accelerate faster with the 27.5. Hang on, I can't talk yet. Got it. That's a better tech climber. All right, party time. Let's see how this does on the down. Man, I can't believe how playful this still is. Still corners exceptionally well. Picks up more speed for sure as a 29er. Still very much the same style bike. It hasn't lost its character. I think that's what's the most surprising. It still corners as well as most mullets. Pretty cool. Still a great wheelie machine. Hello. No, you're fine. We'll wait. We'll wait till you have a good spot. Thanks a lot. Have a great day. Yeah, it just feels a little zippier. Holds its momentum a little better through this stuff. It feels stiffer. Must be that 2-3, or the Hunts might be a little bit stiffer than the stock wheels on this. Man, it'll still just pop into manuals like nothing. You need 0 advance notice to manual it. What a bike. Wow, feels noticeably stiffer. I'd say I only lost 5% of the playfulness of the mullet, but I probably gained 15% more zip and pep. Holds its momentum better, way faster. I like it as a 29er. That's how I'd be buying it. If I were bike packing, definitely a 29er. Probably run a 29x26 front and rear. That way I'd get a little bit of cushion. It's an aluminum frame and you're not gonna mistake it for steel. I think I'm falling in love with it as a 29er. But man, I also love it as a 27.5. If you ride flow trails with just tons of jumps and berms and you just kind of have a boring pedal up that doesn't have a lot of tech, the mullet setup's the way to go. I don't know how Santa Cruz did it. They managed to make this bike feel totally different, yet totally similar. It still has plenty of chameleonness, but it feels shreddier and longer and more stable, more planted. Man, that's hard no matter what wheel size you got. All right, here's the last big climb. See if I can make it all the way up and not get stuck on that knuckle. Yeah! Oh, barely. The Chameleon Special, somehow in 29er mode, it's still able to retain 95% of that playful characteristic that it has as a mullet, and hardly any other 29ers feel this playful. As far as handling goes, I felt like the mullet would initiate turns just a little bit more. I know a lot of people say that. I actually felt it. In my brain, I know that axles may be, 15 mil lower, but it did feel like if I, needed a last minute turn, I could dip it on its axis to where it's falling over into the turn faster with less advance notice. Whereas the 29er felt like it took a little bit more sweeping turns and I had to kind of plan my turns a little bit more ahead in advance. So if I were on a slalom run or on a pump track or like at a lift access bike park where we're hitting downhill, really quick banked turns, or if I was in the Alps hitting really steep hairpins downhill or uphill, I feel like the mullet is a little bit better suited for that, maybe 5 to 10% better suited at that, but it's really a small difference. I could climb more technical stuff better with the 29er. Lifting the rear up was a little bit harder. I mean, I couldn't quite lift it quite as high, but I cleaned more stuff, more technical climbs with it in the 29er mode. For the Rocky Southwest where I live, I prefer it as a 29er. I still love it as a mullet, but the 29er suits my riding a little bit better. It was peppier on the flats. It was more exciting on the climbs. It was faster on the downs. It carried momentum better. And it only lost, like I said, maybe 5% of that playfulness of the mullet. I felt like the mullet could handle steeper double black diamond terrain better. I felt like that smaller rear wheel, it felt like the front stayed a little higher with the smaller rear wheel. Like when I would go down big 2-foot ledges in a row, the smaller rear wheel felt a little more planted, whereas the bigger rear wheel felt like it was bucking me a little bit more. That could just be in my head, but I did notice that right away when I hopped on it. But man, what a special bike to be able to run in both settings. I prefer the 29er, but if you live in one of those places that have those great flow trails like Bentonville, or places where there's just berms and jumps and you don't even have to pedal and there's no rocks and no chunk, you're just kind of flowing, I think the mullet's going to be a little more fun, especially if it's steep. But if it's flatter, I think the 29er is going to be a little bit better. So I hope that gives you some food for thought. If you want to pick my brain about which one I would recommend for you or which hardtail I would recommend for you, I have a bike consultation service over on Patreon. You sign up for the bike consultation service. We work together. I learn a whole bunch about you, where you live, how you ride, what you're looking for in your next bike. And based on the over 60 hardtails that I've ridden, I will custom pick and put a list together for the bikes that I recommend for you and tell you the pros and cons of each. And we'll work together to narrow that list down so you can find your perfect hardtail. I think it's a great way to save money by not buying the wrong bike. And a lot of very happy patrons have used the service multiple times as they search for more bikes or bikes for a significant other. And I love that. That's my main job, is helping people consult on which bike would be best for them. So if that's something you're interested in, patreon.com/hardtailparty is where you go for that. This bike is so special, both as a mullet and as a 29er. The 29er suits my riding more. I like pedaling, I like long days, I like climbs, I like carrying momentum a little bit more, but I also like playing around on the bike. And fortunately, the 29er is still a very playful bike. I'm trying to think if there's another 29er that's this playful. One that I can think of, the Binary Maniac, but it's a little bit different from this, and I don't want to just plug that bike because I designed it, so I'm even hesitant to mention that. But there are very few 29ers as playful as this. What a special bike. Thanks for getting experimental with me today. There's a party in the mountains, and you're invited.